Okay, so I've got a perspective set up in Revit, and that's the view that I want to start working on to take into Photoshop for rendering. And now I just wanted to show you an image, but I need to switch to it in a different way. Okay, so I'm trying to achieve rendering similar to what you can see in this Zaha Hadid oil painting. But I'm going to use Photoshop techniques for that. So, going back into Revit, the camera's already been made, so you need to know how to make a camera view or a perspective view, but I haven't changed anything else in that view. So that's the way it would have come up just after making the camera. And in the previous videos, you'll see steps showing you how to make camera views. But what I'm going to do now is just zoom out a little bit using the wheel to make that a bit smaller on the screen. And then I'm going to select the border and stretch the sides out and make sure you know what that's doing. So that's really important that you understand here, if you change the border, you're adjusting the field of view. And I'm going to go back into the plan view where you can see my camera's selected, or it's showing down there. And then these lines either side show the cone of vision or the field of view. And so you can see there that this one here on the right is in line with that platform there, that hexagon, and then the one on the left is in between this curving element and the section line. Now I'm going to go back to the camera view again and adjust those borders one more time, thin them out a fair bit, and then show you again in the ground floor plan that the camera hasn't moved, so the camera's still in the same spot, but you can see here this line's moved and this line's moved. So it's widening that cone, it's not moving the camera. That's the important thing. So you can see more, but the camera's stationary, and so it's the same as adjusting your lens on a camera. So we're using that to zoom, or again, field of view is the same, interchangeable with zoom. So if we bring this up as well, that's also adjusting the field of view, but vertically. Now, in some cases, you might want to move the camera, and I'm going to show you how to do that when you have the viewport open, or the camera open. You can use the navigation wheel, make sure it's on the full navigation wheel, and then when you click on that navigation wheel, you'll get the walk tool, and you can just click to hold down that button. So I'll just do that again. So you click and hold the left button. You'll see the left, so the blue dot there come up next to your cursor, and if you move in front of that, it'll move forwards, move back to it, it'll stop, and then if you move the cursor behind the blue dot, it'll move backwards. And that can be useful when you're inside a wall. Yeah? Yep. Oh, sure. Yep, if you can't see this panel over here, sure, just go to the View tab, and then under User Interface, you can tick any element. So that one is the navigation bar. Yep, sure. So, okay, so just make sure that your camera is not inside a wall, and also be aware if you're adjusting the field of view that you can go too far. So again, just like when you're using a camera, if you use a really small lens, which means a big field of view, very wide field of view, you'll see here as I come right out to the side, this object here, which we know is a hexagon, starts to look very distorted. So here the sides on the left are much smaller than the sides on the right. Again, that's the nature of perspective, but it just looks a bit unnatural, so you can't go too far with field of view, and you need to balance that sometimes with adjustments or moving of your camera. Okay, so that's something you need to do before you bring your view into Photoshop. You need to frame the perspective or the view that you're working with, and it's not a good idea to do this after you've brought it into Photoshop. So I've got the view set up, and so I'm going to save my file and case it crashes here. And then to export it's fairly simple. You can go to the main menu and then print and use the Adobe PDF converter. So with the print settings here, I'm just going to make sure in setup that it has zoom 100% set for the size. That's really, really important. If you don't set that, then the page size will often change, or sorry, not page size, the view size will often change. So really important that you remember to do that. Then the option here, I'll set to A4, and then let's use center as well for the placement. So I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to close the print settings. Okay, and just so you understand why, here I've set zoom to 100%. So the view is going to print the size it's set to in Revit. But how do we know that size? How do you set the size for a perspective view? Right, it doesn't have a scale, so I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to close the print. And so then to set the size, I need to select the border of the perspective, go to size crop, and then change this option to scale. So again, really important, if you don't do this, then your image isn't going to be a fixed size that you know. And you do need to be aware of the size. So if I need it to fit onto A4, what's the size of an A4 page? 210 by 297, hopefully is something you'll remember. And so both of these need to be less than 297, so I'm going to change the width there to 297. And then if I click over to the right in height, you can see that changes automatically. Okay, so you can change either value because they're locked. So locked proportions means these two values are locked. We change one, the other changes, and so 297 is the size of an A4 page, but in this case we want to print a little bit smaller than that, so I'm going to say 250. So it fits well within the long side, so I cross the A4 page this way, so that easily will fit. And then if I click to the right into height, it'll change automatically to a value, so 128 is what it's changed to. So I'm going to click OK, and now you can see it's zoomed a little bit, but what's inside the border is exactly the same. If I hadn't changed it to scale, if I'd left it on field of view, it's the same as dragging the borders. That can be useful, but in this case, it's not what I want. So again, really important that you can set the size of your perspective views without changing the proportions. That's right, exactly. That's right, exactly. So now, when I go back to print, it'll keep the settings that I had in setup before, so all of that's the same. And so if I click on the preview button, you can see then that the perspective is centered on that A4 page and fits the way I want it to. If you're using that fit to page option, you're just letting the print driver set the size of that perspective, and it'll change depending on the printer you choose, because each printer has a different printable area. Okay, so that's ready to go. I'm going to click the print button up here, and then just click OK, and that's going to make my PDF file. So I'll call it perspective. Yeah, does it get frozen or take a long time? Yeah. Yeah, that's an Adobe issue. So there's a problem with Acrobat, especially the virtual printer. And I'm pretty sure it's a memory issue because I've seen it in a few different places. So it's something to do, yeah, with the way it's using the RAM. And Adobe programs have always had an issue there anyway. That's right. Yeah. So look, if it keeps doing it, then you can try reducing the size of your file, or just saving it using that option I just showed you in. Yeah, right. Yeah, look, I know. Yeah, that's right. And see, I've noticed that on my really powerful computer, it never happens. It's only happened, but these are still quite good computers, so it shouldn't really happen on these. Yeah, it is a memory issue. But I mean, but again, these computers have, I think, 16 gig, and so they're pretty good. If you restart them, you know, it's pretty likely to work on these. Yeah, yeah, sure. Okay, so I've made my PDF file, and now I'm going to open that in Photoshop, and let's just, sorry. Somewhere, I hate having to fiddle like this, but there we are. Okay, so there's my PDF file, and just open that, and so I'll just have to pause for a moment, and I'll do the rendering in just a second. Okay, so yeah, so just continuing on then with the lines that I've imported into Photoshop. Now I'm just going to duplicate this layer by dragging the layer thumbnail onto the new layer button in the layers panel. I can just copy the layer so that I can leave the original line work in the background, and I'll just double click to rename that layer background. Oops. There we go. And then the other layer I'll rename line work. It's pretty similar to what I've shown you before. Now I'm going to make a brand new layer in between those two. So I'm going to choose the background layer, make a new layer, and then so it's layer 1, and then just fill that. Under the edit menu, you can go to fill, that's an easy way, and just choose white. So under the edit menu, you can choose fill, and then just set the colour to white. But you need to have the new layer first. So you need a blank layer in between. So I'm going to rename that layer as well, white background. So I imported that. That was where I started. So I opened the PDF file that I've made from Revit, and it had that line work. And then I just duplicated the layer. So I've copied that line work layer and left a copy in the background. But I'll turn that background layer off now. So I'm going to just make sure that one isn't visible. And now I'll make another layer in between. But I might zoom in first just so that you can see the line works all come in properly. So that's all there. And then, so again, I'm going to make another layer with the white background layer selected. So it's going to go in between the background and the line work layer. So I'm going to call this layer shading or rendering, but just shading for now. Okay, so if I was going to be painting colours and shadows, just to go simply over some of these things, I'll try and find a surface that isn't too big. So, well, actually, this is a good one. So I've got here the wall over here, which I'm going to maybe select first with the magic wand. So you've got there different options. So just make sure it's on the magic wand, and I can get. We'll see how much I can get. You can see there it's giving me too much. So I'm going to change the tolerance there to something lower. I'm going to go to 1. And then again, try to select again. And what have we got here? So we've got... okay, so when things like this happen, check your selection options. So someone here, when they're using this computer, has changed this to add to selection. So I'm going to change it back to new selection and then try selecting again. You can see it's still getting too much. So the magic wand here, even with a tolerance of 1, isn't working. I'm going to try just sample all layers and then try again, and still it's not working. So it's going over the line here. And so instead we need to use polygonal selection. Still always good to try the magic wand. Sometimes it will work and save you a lot of time, but in this case it's no good. So again, the polygonal selection option is often the one you need to use, so it's really important that you know how to work with it. And so I'm just going to start here by clicking a point and bring that over and basically tracing what I want to select. So, okay, you can't zoom while you're selecting, but you can always come back and adjust the selection afterwards. So normally I would zoom in a bit more here, but still should do a pretty good job. And so you can see there I'm going past this element, and that's something the magic wand wouldn't have done anyway. Let's go to there for now. And you could even save that selection, but once I fill it with a colour, it won't be too bad. And so instead of using the fill tool, I'm going to start working with my colour swatches. So I've got here the foreground colour, and you can obviously make colours here. So it's really important that you can work with RGB as well as HSB, which is hue, saturation, brightness. Lab, you probably don't need to use as much, but that's another colour model. But again, probably the most common would be either HSB or RGB. Very rarely you might work with CMYK, but that's only if you're working with print colours. And I'm assuming you usually would be working with screen colours, so that means RGB. You'll know the difference when you work with CMYK, what the main difference is between that and RGB. Which one do you think gives you more colours? Definitely, yeah, RGB. Definitely. RGB. By a factor of 10 or 100, even, maybe more. Depends on the system you're using, but it's always more than CMYK. And the reason is you're working with light with RGB. When you're working with CMY or CMYK, you're working with pigment. So that's why you have it on printers, and ink and paint. That's always with CMYK. And so because you're absorbing light, it reduces the possibilities essentially. And so that's why you'll see up here you get this message when you make a colour that is visible on the screen but won't print. So again, that's why it's usually better to start with RGB, because you get more colours. So here I want a different hue, so I'm going to drag that slider. That's often a good starting point. Get the basic hue you want there, and then fine-tune the colour in the colour picker, or the colour selector, and so maybe I want a bit more saturation there. And then you can go further and adjust these numbers sometimes. So saturation there is often one that you can bring up or down. So lower is going to be more grey, higher is going to be more colour, basically. So 90% saturation is getting towards the full extremes of these colours, which is mostly red. You can see those other values going down. Maybe I want a slightly darker one though, so yeah, that's about what I want. I'm getting another warning there, but I'll leave with that. So I want to keep this colour, and I'm going to add that to my swatches over here. And I'm going to call this, well, what is it, sort of an Indian red, I suppose. I don't know if that's the right name for it, but that'll do. Okay, and so now, getting on there. I think we've got an issue with the setup on this computer, but normally that shouldn't take very long. You've just got to go to the network or something. You seen this one happen on these computers? Should be able to add to swatches. Okay, I might just cancel that and not add to my library. So here, when you go add to swatches, you can just turn that option off, and yeah, there we go, that's what was causing it. I didn't give it a name, but that's okay. I'll just look with that. So going to the, say the brush tool now, this one. Yeah, it's got that colour. I don't know why that's not going into the foreground there. So you should see that colour here, and for some reason it's not showing properly on the screen. Let's just see if we turn these off. That's a bit odd. Anyhow, I'm just going to go to Fill, and then change the contents there to foreground colour, and oh, it's getting that grey. So someone's been messing with the options here as well. Why do they do this? Okay, so we've got some option that's causing foreground colour not to work. I've never seen this. So, yeah, maybe that's it. So, yeah, we've got the mode there. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. So, yeah. Okay, so I don't know why that would have been changed, but again, that's definitely what it is. So, that'll often be on RGB to begin with. And, yeah, so we should have done this before. That's a real pain. It's so annoying when people change the defaults. So, yeah, you've got to watch out for that because other people come in, and in this case, probably another teachers come in and mess with the defaults, and it stuffs everyone up. So, going to have to make new layers and start again. So annoying. Yeah, so when you change settings, try not to change the defaults like the person on this computer has. Okay, so we're going to have to bring all of this across to a new file because, again, we can't unfortunately change the mode midstream. Don't know why anyone would do that. So, what do I have to do? So I have to make a new file by opening this from scratch. It shouldn't open as a grayscale, but this maybe is where the problem came in. Oh yeah, there we go, mode on grayscale. Okay, so never change that option. It should always be on RGB. Don't know why you put that on grayscale. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so but it's probably good that you've seen it because to fix it is an absolute pain and probably not that obvious. So Control A, Control C for each layer into the other file. That's the only way you can do it. Okay, so should check for that, but it's something that normally wouldn't be there. It's all been in here or something. I don't know who's doing that. That's a really weird setting to change. Anyhow, sorry, you can't change midstream because it would flatten it. If I change here, it's going to merge. Oh yeah, okay. So sorry. Okay, I'm wrong. So I used to have to merge them. Okay, so maybe I'm wrong. Sorry. Okay, so I've made it harder than it is. Yeah, but again, don't ever change that option because it should be on, there's no reason you'd ever want the file RGB at first. So yeah, so that should do all the layers. That's actually not too bad. Yeah. Yeah, you might change it to RGB afterwards, but yeah, when you first import it, you'd always want the colours. So if we go here, so I'll just make sure it's the mode. Yeah, so yeah, normally you would never change that, so that should be okay. Okay, so now I can go back and then apply that foreground colour. There we go, that's working. So if we paint, unfortunately I've lost my selection, so I'll have to do that again. Painful. And actually what I might do there is zoom in and show you the proper way. So if you zoomed in, you can still use the polygonal lasso tool fairly easily. You can see here my computer's struggling a bit, but that's just because I'm recording. And so when you go near the edge of the screen, it'll scroll automatically when you're in this mode. So it's fairly easy to select like this when you've zoomed in, and it'll be much more accurate. So Again, I see a lot of people try to work when they're zoomed out and take a long time to select things and often still don't do a very good job. But if you just zoom in and make sure you can see enough detail, you can get it perfect every time. So you can see that is obviously right on or under the line. So now it should be easy to fill. So because I've got that selection, I can use the paint bucket tool, and it should just apply the foreground colour. And then to paint the ambient shadows, so this is similar to what you'll see if you look at the Alex O'Greef tutorial online. So you can see here these shadows have been painted. I'm not going to do the full shadows, but I'm going to do the ambient shadows, which are these extra shadows you have close to the corners. And so then, just using the brush tool now, we can get a darker version of that colour. So you can try burn and sponge as well. They can work really well. But you can just try painting with a darker colour, and that's the simple way. So I can just darken the colour here. But I want to show you yet another way, which is to make another layer on top, but keep the selection. So here I've got the wall shape still selected. So it's only going to paint in those areas when I use the brush tool. And I'm going to change now back to black and white. So you've got the button there just above your colour swatches, which goes back to black and white if you don't know that one. And then well, if you right-click, I'll show you that first, you probably all know that you can change the size of the brush here and the hardness as well. So I actually want a really soft brush, so I'm happy with the hardness to be on 0%, but you can obviously play with that. And then size, you can, of course, drag here as well, and then you can see straight away the change in the brush size. But the square brackets are the shortcut for that. And that's really useful here when you'll be changing the brush size quite a lot when you're painting. Okay, so the way ambient shadows tend to work is that they're stronger at the corners or where surfaces connect. So I'm going to paint here along this edge here, but that's a bit too heavy, so I'll undo that. And so I'll reduce the brush size a little bit. Oops, so I've just used the wrong shortcut. So again, just reducing the brush size a bit. And I'm also going to adjust the flow. So there, I'm going to take the flow down, and that'll make it have less of an effect. So I'm just trying to get that down to the right size, and again, playing with the flow, but also sometimes the opacity. Get it even just a bit fainter. So there we go. I'm just going to bring that up a little bit, and then try just to get the edge of it. So I want a soft shadow, that's it, along the edge of the floor there. And it's good if it's a bit rough. It makes it look more natural. So again, just painting along there. A little bit of roughness doesn't hurt, but you can always go back and tidy up those things if you need to. So it's just painting a colour with the brush. So black in this case. Okay, so again, just painting, gone too far there. And I've got to undo. Just make sure you know that to do more than one undo, you need to use the history panel. So if you undo again, it'll actually redo. But when you use the history panel, you can go back through as many steps as you want to. So then I can just, again, continue painting from where I want to, along that edge there. Again, a bit of roughness is good. So you might think that's too dark, but I'm deliberately making it like that, so don't worry about that. So again here, too far, but one step isn't enough, but I can easily go back two, and then just continue on. So I've got my bottom edge done. And this is fairly quick and easy to paint in, and it really gives you a good feel for your perspective as well. Maybe even in the foreground I want some slightly bigger shadows, because it's a perspective after all. Okay, so I can keep refining that. Then now, to get a bit more control over the shadow, I can adjust the opacity of that layer, and also set the blend mode to multiply. Okay, so then it's going to make the original colour come through the shadow. So here I'm going to just make sure I've got the right layer. Yep, that's right. So now I can adjust the opacity of that layer, and you're going to get a much more subtle shadow. And you can see there it really starts to look like a 3D element, especially if you start to paint in one for, say, the floor. And that's really how you get depth, and why often rendered images look more real than things where you just have the dominant shadow. So you can get the dominant shadow, and I showed you before how you can get the shadows from Revit, and even though you might end up going over those with Photoshop, they're fairly easy to work out once you get the outline from the Revit shadows, and then you can work on that as another layer in Photoshop. But again, those ambient shadows are really important and give it a lot more depth, and you can actually have really effective renders with only ambient shadows and without any directional shadows. And they have a name because they're done so much. They're called ambient renders or ambient occlusion renders, but let's just look for ambient shadow render. And I guarantee you will find, here we go, a whole ton of them. So, so these are all renders done only with those ambient shadows. So there are no directional shadows. We don't know where the light source is here, but you can still pick out all of the geometry only with the shadows because of those ambient shadows. So again, heavier where the surfaces connect. So you just go around and work out where things connect and paint in those shadows. This is from a rendering engine, but you can do the same thing with Photoshop. Okay, so so then again, to do the opposite, if you want to have light effectively in place of the shadows, you just need to know a few extra simple techniques. And so you could try having white lines on a black background. So I've got there a white background. I might keep that and I'll duplicate the layer. Again, just dragging the swatch onto the new layer button, and I'll call this black background. And then fill that with black. Now it's filled my selection, so I'll just undo that and make sure I've got nothing selected. There we go, and just fill again. Okay, but then I can't see the line work anymore, so I'm going to find that layer and again duplicate it. So I'll call the old layer line work black, and then the new layer line work white. And then I'm simply going to right click on that new layer, go to select pixels, and then go to fill those. In fact, I don't even need to do that. Sorry, I could fill them with white, but I'll show you probably a slightly better way. So I'm going to actually deselect those, and should be able to use the invert option. That's actually easier here. So that just inverts the colours, so now I've got white lines instead of black. And that can be really effective even on its own, so it's a really nice thing to have those negative style of drawing, so where you have white lines on a black background, and then colours can be a lot more effective as well. But then again, instead of painting with white, you can paint, sorry, instead of painting with black, you can paint with white. So going back to my shadows now, which are on this layer that I've left as layer 1, but I should call that shadows dark. And then I'll duplicate that layer as well, turn off the original one, and then I'll call this shadows light. And now I can just invert that layer, and there it's actually one of the others that tends to work. So the light options tend to work fairly well here. I'm just going to adjust the opacity as well so that comes up a bit more. There we are. So you can see now I'm getting this white glow instead of the dark shadow. And that can be really, really effective. I've done quite a few perspective drawings only using this technique, and they work pretty well. So, so again, same idea, but painting with white. And if you want that Zaha sort of effect, again, she did it with oil paint, but you can, with brushes, get really similar things. And often a bit of a gradient doesn't hurt as a starting point as well. So you can, oops, sorry, wrong way. So you can get a gradient if it's positioned properly. So undo that and try again. So it's got to come out a bit further there. So a gradient often works pretty well as a starting point, but you sometimes need to try the other presets, like it's a radial one actually, if you can find it. But well, that's actually not bad to begin with. And then again, using the brush tool to go over that. If you're working with black and white, it's really easy because you don't need to play around too much with your colours, and you can get a bit more of a speckled effect. Probably all know that you have lots of other brush types you can load, so sometimes the different stamping patterns can be interesting as well to get a more textured effect. But you have to play around with those, and sometimes spend a lot of time on the size, but they can sometimes be really effective as well to roughen it up a little bit. And also playing with the flow as you do that can be good to overlay things and blend them in together. Again, just reducing the flow gradually as you fade it out, and it can start to look a bit more natural. And you know, as you zoom in and out, you'll see a big difference in the way it looks. So when you're looking closely at something and obsessing over the detail, sometimes you forget the big picture, but when you zoom out, you might see that as a total image, it can be effective. So again, very simple techniques. There shouldn't be too many new tools there that I've shown you. But I do want to show you a couple of new things. Sorry. So firstly, you've got in the program, so I just have that open. No, here. A lot of things we've done before. So we've looked at Vesta and raster files, and then the other things that I've just shown you in Revit as well. And then a lot of things in Photoshop as well. But then you can see here listed as the new things, masking and deep etching. So they're two really important concepts in Photoshop particularly. And they're related actually, so also that's Revit. So masking is a really important thing, and you can use masking to do deep etching. And again, they're both important things you should know in Photoshop. So I'm going to start with a file that I want for the person here. So I want to replace that with something better. So I'm going to open up a bitmap or a JPEG file, PNG maybe. From the P drive, I've got a folder here, but you can easily search for these and probably find better. So I'm sick of using this person, so let's see if there are any others there that I'm not totally sick of. Sick of most of them. I'll go for this one. It looks a bit boring, but it's too low resolution actually, so I think it's time to get a new one. Yeah, I've got some here that are pretty high res, but again, I'm just sick of all of them, so I'll get a new one, and it's probably good to see how easy it is. I'm sure I can mostly do this though, so I'm not going to look for cutout people, I'm just going to look for person, standing. Okay, it's nice if you get cutout people, which a lot of these are, but it's really important that you can get them when they're not cut out. So let's see, for one that's good, that's not cut out and has a full standing person that will also look good in silhouette. And is at the right angle as well. So don't just choose anything, you've got to take your time and get something that works. And pretty bad actually. Maybe this guy, it's not the best, but I think that'll do. Kind of interesting pose. So it's important that you get the original image, so going to view image here should give us the actual direct link to the file, not just a thumbnail. That one's cut out. I'll save him anyway because it might be good for you. I think I've seen a few other people use that one. So I'm going to save it into the persons or people folder here. But try and get a better one. So here we go, that might have to do. Because I really want to get something that can show you when it's got a background. How you can always still get it without spending forever. So pixels photo, that'll do. Okay, so I'm going to go and open that file now. There we are. So I can't just use the magic wand to cut this person out. If it's got a white background, then you may be able to do that. So the other one, I'm sure you all know. Which one was it? Doesn't really matter, I suppose, but that was it. So that one's actually got a transparent background, even easier. But if it's got a white background or a black background, let's just do this one. You can use the magic wand, but don't forget you'll often have to go around and find areas like this, which are effectively islands, and use Shift to add those to the selection. And even then, you may get artifacts or bits that you don't want. So here there are lots of things that you would need to still go around. So even when it's got a background like this, you still will often need to do what I'm about to show you, which is deep etching. So deep etching just means cutting it out and making it usable in other situations or with different backgrounds. So, so you can sometimes use the magic wand to start to give you selections, but really here, even if I bring the tolerance up to, let's say 15, which is moderately high, it's not even getting very much. Let's try sort of the default value, which is about 30, and getting a few colours, but still not helping me hugely. So instead I'm going to use the polygonal tool, and well actually before I go too far with that, you'll see if you look up deep etching online that there are many, many ways of doing it. Some people use the pen tool, and there are lots of other approaches as well. But the way I'm going to show you is, well firstly I'll show you the quick way using the polygonal tool, then I'll show you the way I really do it. So you can go around selecting like this, and so I don't take too long, I'm just going to do his feet. Very roughly, I'll spend forever on this. Okay, so I'm sure you can all do that, and then to add to the selection you can just hold down Shift and then keep clicking points to add them. And it's actually a good way of doing it. If you try and select it all in one go, you'll often make a mistake and it's sometimes hard to go back. So even here, it's freezing up a little bit on me, but there we go, and when it's woken up it's gotten the wrong point, but it's not a huge problem because I can just keep adding. And actually if you let go of Shift, it's okay, as long as you have it held down when you first click your lasso point. And a good little tip there, actually, if you let go of Shift and then hold it again, that'll snap it to 90 degrees. Okay, so you've got there the selection, which then you can go to select and then inverse. Again, it's always good practice to keep the original layer, so I'll duplicate that layer and then turn the background off. And now I can just either press delete on the keyboard or go to the edit menu and choose clear, and it's going to delete everything else. The problem there is that it's hard to go back without bringing the whole background layer back. If I've made a mistake or if I want to add more to that selection, it's hard. And also, if I put in a new background, I might realise that I've got to make some changes then as well. So it's not always the best way of doing it. So another way, instead of using the selection tools, is to use masking. So I thought this is a good way of showing you masking as well. And masking is just one of those extremely useful things. Once you know it in Revit, in Photoshop, you'll use it all the time. So I've just made sure nothing's selected on this layer, and I've got the background copy layer, which is going to be my person, so I'll call that cutout person. And then I'm going to just go to the layer menu and then layer mask, reveal all. Okay, so this isn't the only way of doing masking. You'll see down on the main toolbar you've got this quick mask button, which does something similar. But honestly, once you know layer masks, you probably won't need to use quick mask. So again, under layers, layer mask, you've got vector masks as well, but again, layer masks, probably what you need at first. And so then again, I'm going to go to reveal all. So there won't be any change in the image. But over here in the layers, you can see now it's added this extra swatch next to my layer. So that's the layer I'm painting on now. And I'm going to go over and make sure my colours are black and white. You can see there they've automatically changed to that, so they do change automatically when you select a layer mask. If I go back to one of the other layers, I'll just choose the background and change the colour to something else. Okay, but then if I go back to my layer mask thumbnail, notice how the colours change back to black and white. So try to force yourself not to change the foreground and the background colour when you're working with a layer mask, because you normally just need to work with black and white. I'm going to invert them though, because I want black now in the foreground. So then I can paint. And so really what I'm doing here is trying to select what I want with the brush tool instead of the selection tool. I've still got that funny brush, so I'm going to go back to a standard brush and then just use the square brackets to increase the brush size. I might just check my hardness. Yep, that's on 100, that's fine. So I'm going to just paint then. You can see then it's erasing. It's a lot like using the eraser, but there's a huge difference, or there's one big difference, and that is that I'm masking, I'm not erasing. So I'll just scrub all of this out, but it's not gone for good. If I realise I've made a mistake or gone too far, I can just change to painting in white instead of black. So over here, looking at the thumbnail, you can see this area that's black is deleted. If I switch it to paint in white, I can easily bring that back. So you can go back and forth, and that's really helpful when you're doing etching. So here I'm going to go in and just paint out all of this. You could paint that all really quickly using a selection. I can just, with the polygonal tool now, do a really rough selection. So again, it's just freezing a little bit because of the recording, but normally this is really quick. So super quick, just getting very rough outline. Now, I'll probably cut his finger off a little bit there, so I'm going to add using Shift just to, well actually no, I could add, but again, we don't need to because it's a layer mask, so I'll show you how to bring that back. So I'll actually take off a bit more. So it's Alt to remove from the selection, and I'll cut off half his hand. That's all right. So, okay, so now again I'm going to go to Select, inverse and then fill with black, and that will cut out all of that area. And you can see again really clear over here when you look at the thumbnail. Now I can go with the brush tool and reduce my brush size. I'm going to just deselect, so nothing selected, and then I can paint in all the way around. Now, now it's a bit low, it's going slowly because my flow is still low, so I'm going to put that back to 100 and the opacity too. Yeah, I wonder why it was a bit faint. There we go, that's better. So you can see that's happening a bit quicker now. I can just quickly go around. Okay, so the reason I think this works better than the selection method is because not only can you go back and forth, but you can get soft edges. And that's really the key to blending I've found when I've done my, particularly my montage work, where I'm overlaying lots of layers. I can see in other people's work that they often just cut things out very roughly and they leave either a bit of an edge from the background, or so just along here you can see there's a little bit of the sky coming through on the edge of his arm, and then it stands out against the background. You see that sort of silhouette outlining a lot of the things that you overlay, particularly the people and the other entourage elements. So if you paint that with a soft brush, so I make that much smaller, and then now I'm going to reduce the hardness, so I can then paint that away, but not with a hard edge, but with a nice soft edge. So really what I'm going to get then is a blend on the sides of his arm there, where it's going to get some of the background coming through, because it's effectively grey there on the side. I've gone too far, so I can always just switch back to paint in white and bring back a bit of his arm there, so it doesn't look so weird. But again, that's, you can see there, too far, so he's, okay, so he's got a bit of a skinny arm anyway. Yeah. So I know it seems a bit obsessive, but it really does make a difference when you can get those edges to blend nicely. And often these will be resources you'll use over and over again, and you just need to prepare these files once, and then you can of course keep overlaying these in all your different perspectives and other times when you need them. So, so again here, just painting fairly roughly, but I can always switch back and change my brush settings. Maybe actually might make it a little bit harder just to bring back slightly hard edge there at the bottom. Okay, so that's a really effective way, and actually this is the most professional way of doing etching, much more than a lot of those methods where they use things like the pen tool. Pen tool's great, but not for this, I don't think. And so works well for people, like I'm showing you, but even better for things like trees, which can be really hard to cut out because they, of course, have really intricate shapes, and quite often you don't want to cut out around every single leaf. So you can have sometimes the section where you've got the foliage painted with a grey, so you can sometimes get that by just reducing the flow or the opacity or both. And so if you paint an area with a brush or with the settings like that, effectively you're painting with grey, so it's going to let some of the background through. And again, that works really well for planting and other foliage and elements where you've got a lot of detail. So I'm just looking for my history there. I think I closed it. Yes, I did. Okay, so I won't go through and paint around all the edges here, but I'll just get a little bit more. X is the shortcut that I've been just using as I paint to switch between foreground and background, and of course I've got to put these things back up to 100, and there we are. So now I'm painting away again. Okay, so again, zooming in, got to make the brushes often fairly small, but doesn't take that long. Okay, so that's deep etching and layer masks. And do you remember the format you need to use to save this transparency? So I want the checkerboard pattern to stay saved with the file. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. So just remember that. So not JPEGs. So I can save this file now as a Photoshop file so that I can keep working on it. And then, so that you can reuse it, it's often good to have it saved as simpler format, and like you were saying, PNG is good. And so if you copy and paste from the PNG file, it's already flattened for you. So that's a good way of making again, a file that you can reuse and you can easily bring things to and from. This one you can see still has the layers and the layer mask. So to get this into a state where I can easily copy this into another file, I'd need to right click there and you can go to apply layer mask and that'll flatten it. So that works as well. Then I can copy and paste from here. But it's probably good to keep the layer mask so I can keep working on it. Definitely here, that's what I need to do. So again, really important you understand that. When you bring things in to another file, usually, again, you want it flattened. So here you can see this is flattened, it just has the one layer. And, well, I did want to show you silhouettes as well. This is something that should be pretty straightforward, but again, sort of make sure you've got the steps in case you get stuck. So I will quickly just paint out a little bit more so it looks at least okay. And so this is a good way of doing it as well. So just painting out the obvious bits before you zoom in is going to save you a lot of time, but it'll be pretty obvious. So that looks pretty okay, except for the cut off hand, which I'll fix in a second. And again, don't forget in between the legs, that's often one of the real giveaways. Okay, so you can probably see it's a really nice way of working compared to trying to just do everything with the selection tool. So here again, X to switch back to white. We can easily bring things back. So, okay, so now just finally, obviously the fingers cutting off there is no good, so they're very easy to bring back though. But if I deleted them, obviously that would be much, much harder. Okay, so if you can't tell, I'm using X there to switch between black and white as I paint. And again, finally, just a larger brush, and that'll do the last bit here. There we go. Okay, so that's a little bit better, especially for a silhouette. So again, I'll use the save as method to so save first and then save as, there you go, to save my PNG file again. And it's not letting me because it's open, so I'll just close that and try again. There we go. So I'm going to copy and paste from that PNG file. Okay, so now all I need to do is copy and paste. So from here, you can either select with a marquee or select everything, doesn't really matter. But you just need to select the area that you need, then go to copy or Control C, and then I can easily paste it into my other layer. So is it that one? So I've got a few files here, that's the one. And so this will go above all of my other layers. So I'm just going to paste, and that will automatically create a new layer. Control T to transform, I'm sure you all know, and you can just drag there while you adjust the transform. And so having the silhouette imported from Revit is actually a good thing here, because I can use that to get an idea of scale and position. So he's probably a little bit taller than her, so he's going to be a little bit bigger. There we go. And then, because of the style of image, this sort of person isn't really appropriate for this style of rendering. So a simple thing you could do there would just be to right-click on the layer and go to Select Pixels, which will select everything on that layer, and then maybe just fill it with white. So a silhouette here, much more effective than a realistic person. And then very last thing, maybe just to finish up, you could re-import the line work from Revit to with the person taken out, to take obviously that outline out. But it's a fairly easy thing to fix in Photoshop, so it'd be good to make sure you know how to do things like that. And so here, painting with black on the right layer, or actually probably even cleverer, make a new layer, and then I'll paint. So I've got a selection, I'll just deselect. So now I'll paint in black over that, and that should perfectly cover that that outline. I'm sure you can all do that. You could erase the lines as well, but by painting over the top, if I need to, I can always find it again. So non-destructive editing or non-destructive process is, again, something to think about. Okay, so hopefully that'll give you some ideas for rendering. But again, apart from the Photoshop, make sure you do have a good look at the examples, the precedents that I've given you, particularly those done by all the superstars here. Zaha, of course, is super important, but I think a lot of these others are as well. Rem Koolhaas especially, I can't believe that he's not studied a bit more these days. I know these aren't the best prints, but when you look closely at these images, if you search for some of these others, you'll get lots of ideas for rendering that are often really clever, but can be done fairly simply just using collage type techniques. So these are some of the famous things he's done. Mostly it's to do with New York. So again, have a look at some of those different rendering styles and see if you can replicate them with Photoshop.